He's a professor of government at Georgetown University in Qatar and the director of the Iranian Studies Unit at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies. Hello to you, Mehran. How are you seeing things this Sunday as they're unfolding rather quickly? Are we at the point of dramatic escalation?
We appear to be. We're either at a point of dramatic escalation or de-escalation. Importantly, for a few hours after the Iranian authorities confirmed Khamenei's death, there were no missile strikes on Israel. And there was a sense that probably the hostilities are about to be over. But then we've seen that there have been successive strikes on Israel and on a number of the states here in the Persian Gulf, including Qatar, where I'm located. So it does appear as if the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, at least, is trying to prove that it is staying true to its words and that it is going to retaliate massively in one form or another.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we also haven't heard from Iranian proxies in the region. Do you think that could change?
Well, interesting you should mention that. Hezbollah had said that if Ali Khamenei was personally threatened, then they would spring into action. And so far, there's been no action, probably because Hezbollah is militarily depleted and not in a position to do anything. There's a couple of militia groups that Iran continues to hold sway over in Iraq, namely Qatar, Hezbollah, and Hashd al-Shaabi, and they have been quiet so far. Again, there are domestic political considerations for them to take into account. And finally, we have yet to hear anything from the Houthis, and the Houthis were assumed to come to Iran's assistance in one form or another, particularly in the Red Sea, and we haven't heard from them. Again, I think everyone, all of these proxy groups know that if they were to become engaged, they would be engaging with the United States, and the price subsequently would be extremely heavy.
Yeah, and so that brings us back to the question of what is the capacity of Iran's military and the Revolutionary Guard right now? Are these retaliation, is this a last-ditch desperation effort, or could it sustain retaliatory strikes for the days and weeks to come?
That's an excellent question, and we really don't know the answer. Certainly, there's a lot of tough talk coming out of Tehran from the state media and from Revolutionary Guard's commanders. And I think it's important to note that they have inflicted serious damage from what we can tell and from the few pictures that are trickling out, despite heavy censorship. They've inflicted heavy damage in places like Tel Aviv and in Manama, in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, where admittedly they've hit mostly civilian infrastructure, or at least we're seeing pictures of civilian infrastructure. So we don't really know to what extent can Iran keep this up. They have said, again, part of probably their hyperbole, that they would attack and they would attack in a major way. But whether or not Iran can maintain this level of attack for days or probably weeks is something that remains to be seen. I just want to add here that, incidentally, the Iranians have long been counting on a prolonged war, if not necessarily a war of attrition, but certainly militarily, they've been counting on a prolonged war, figuring that neither Israel nor the United States can afford casualties or to be involved in a prolonged war for kind of weeks. And so maybe they know something that the rest of us don't, but I think that remains an open question.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? Just also want to get your take on this. I mean, it's easy to start a war. It's hard to finish it. So the U.S. and Israel carrying out these strikes together, but What is the exit point? Do they have the same long-term goals?
Again, that's another excellent question. And there was no exit point that the United States had in Iraq or in Vietnam or the Soviet Union had in Afghanistan. I think it's important to remember that great powers can inflict heavy damage when they attack a weaker power, but they cannot win wars. We're seeing that unfold in Russia in relation to Ukraine. We've seen it again and again, whether it's the Soviet Union and Afghanistan, United States and Iraq, US and Vietnam. So I think if indeed this war continues, it will become yet another one of those unending wars in which the United States is involved, something that President Trump very deliberately promised against.